Whitby, a small, wind-beaten town on England's northeast coast. Known for its fishing, its abbey, and for one tale that has cast its shadow across more than a century, that of Dracula. But today, we're not here to simply retell the story of Count Dracula. We're here to reimagine exactly what it may have been like through the eyes of Bram Stoker when he was here in the 1800s. It was here where he got the inspiration for that famous novel. It is here where he walked the very footsteps that we're going to be walking in today. And we're going to visit some locations which, like I said, may well have inspired that famous novel.
I came to Whitby seeking rest, yet found only the restless stirrings of imagination. The words might have been mine, had I written them. For in 1890, I, Bram Stoker, arrived in this quiet coastal town, not knowing that its shadowed streets, its ancient abbey, and its lonely cries would breathe life into something eternal, something that would never die. It is the most wonderful place. The view seems to embrace all time, the old world and the new. The sea, always the sea, rolling in its eternal hunger. I had come as a tourist, yet the town whispered secrets in the wind. Sailors spoke of strange lights upon the water, graveyards crumbled into the earth, and in the library I discovered the true meaning of horror, the story of Vlad Tepes. And from that moment, the Count was born.
In July 1890, Bram Stoker came to Whitby on holiday. He stayed in the guest house of Mrs. Vesey at number 6 Royal Crescent and spent a week alone before his wife and infant son arrived to join him. And each morning, whilst Mrs. Vesey tidied his room, he would wander from the refined surroundings of Royal Crescent and make his way down into the heart of the town. And it was in these surroundings that he would spend hours walking these very same streets, collecting whispers, listening to the wind rattle the shutters of the old inns. But it was also here that Stoker found his muse, not in blood or violence, but in atmosphere. In Whitby's public library, Stoker stumbled upon a curious old volume printed in 1820, a collection of accounts by a British consul stationed in Bucharest, a man named William Wilkinson. Within its pages lay a record of life in the shadowy forests of what we now know as Romania. And among Wilkinson's words was a name that would one day shake the world of Gothic fiction, Vlad Tepes, a 15th century prince infamous for impaling his enemies upon sharpened stakes. He was known by another title, Dracula. In a brief but chilling footnote, Wilkinson explained that the name Dracula means the son of the devil, a name given to any man who made himself feared, whether through courage, cruelty or cunning. Ever the collector of dark inspiration, Stoker quietly jotted the name down and the date beside it. He would also have been aware of a tragedy that struck the coast of Whitby just 5 years earlier in 1885, the wreck of the Russian vessel named the Dmitri. The ship had run aground upon Tate Hill sands beneath the looming shadow of East Cliff, its cargo nothing more sinister than silver sand. But in Stoker's imagination, the story took on a far darker form.
I kept a notebook, my constant companion. In it, I wrote of a foreign shipwreck, of a black dog leaping from its hull, and of a man with eyes like ancient sorrow. He came to me not as a monster, but as a metaphor.
With a subtle twist of name and place, the Dmitri from Narva became the Demeter from Varna, a doomed ship bearing not only silver sand, but boxes of earth, and within them the Count himself, bound for Whitby.
I watched the gulls rise from the harbour, their wings like pale ghosts against the grey, and I thought, if evil should ever find its way to our shores, it would come like this, silent, unseen, carried by the tide.
Now the Demeter in Dracula wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol, a vessel of foreign fear carrying the unknown to England's doorstep. And Whitby, this town of sailors and superstition, it became the perfect stage for a story that still chills us to this very day. Whitby has always been a town of stories, tales of ghosts, wrecks, omens and things being left unsaid. To Bram Stoker it was a treasure trove of atmosphere, a place where life and death seemed to exist side by side. And not far from where Stoker lodged, along the narrow path known locally as the Carby Pass, lies a small stone tunnel that winds beneath the cliffs, a place the locals called the Screaming Tunnel. On windy nights, the noise of the sea would roar through it, echoing like the cries of lost souls. It's easy to imagine Stoker standing there, notebook in hand, listening as the eerie wails mingled with the crashing of the waves below. It's easy to imagine Stoker walking along this very path and very close to what is known as Stoker's Bench, a place where he would sit and look at the view directly in front of him. And just over the water's edge is Whitby Abbey. The sound of the noises, the eerie noises coming from the Carby Pass tunnel or the Screaming Tunnel, along with the crashing sound of the waves echoing through it, must have been haunting. And it's all this which developed and evolved into the story of Dracula.
The graveyard overlooks the harbour, and yet, even among the dead, I found comfort. For here, I saw that death was no end, only a change of form. And that idea, that one cursed whisper of eternity, it never left me.
In what would soon become one of the most enduring tales in literary history, Bram Stoker would give life to a figure that transcended mere horror, a creature of darkness, fear and fascination. The logbook of the Demeter told a haunting story, a voyage shrouded in misfortune. One by one, the crew vanished into the mist until only the captain remained, bound to the wheel, lifeless, his cold hands still gripping the helm as the vessel drifted silently towards Whitby's shore. It's well known that Stoker used a lot of real-life events that occurred in and around Whitby for his inspiration for the book Dracula. And one of those locations and real-life events is just here, on this small section of sand just in the harbour itself. And it is here in 1885 where a Russian trawler shipwrecked, and it was by the name of the Dmitri. Now, in the book Dracula, Stoker himself changed the name slightly to the Demeter, but it was here where the Dmitri, like I said, it was shipwrecked in 1885. Now, in the book Dracula, he used that ship's name, slightly worded different, and he told of how Dracula came to these shores on that shipwreck, the Demeter, changed form into a black dog, and then made his way up the famous 199 steps.
I walked these streets before the dawn. The town was hushed, save for the whisper of the sea against the stones, and I thought how small we are and how vast the darkness that surrounds us.
For Bram Stoker, Whitby wasn't just scenery, it was a mirror. He came here a man weighed down by obligation, business manager for an actor, husband to a distant wife, a writer searching for meaning in a world that was changing too fast. But Whitby, it offered him something no city could: isolation, silence, mystery.
I remember standing upon the cliff, watching the sea churn below, the abbey above me black against the sky, a skeleton of faith. It was beautiful and terrible.
The abbey had stood for nearly 1,000 years. Founded by saints, destroyed by kings, it was a monument to faith lost and found again. To Bram Stoker, it symbolised decay, the crumbling of old beliefs and the rise of something much darker.
The church stands high, the graves fall away beneath it, sliding slowly toward the sea. I saw names worn from stone, and I wondered, what name shall time erase from me?
Now it's here, on the climb to St Mary's, Bram wrote of Lucy Westenra walking among the tombs in the moonlight. He saw beauty in decay, he saw romance in death.
I looked across the harbour to the east cliff, in the hope or fear, I don't know which, of seeing Lucy in our favourite seat. For a moment or two I could see nothing, as the shadow of a cloud obscured St Mary's Church and all around it. Then as the cloud passed and a narrow band of light as sharp as a sword cut moved along, the church and churchyard became gradually visible. And there, on our favourite seat, the silver light of the moon struck a half-reclining figure, snowy white, but it seemed to me as though something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone, and bent over it. What it was, whether man or beast, I could not tell.
But there was something else here too, a deeper fear. The Victorian obsession with progress, medicine and technology was colliding with the older world of superstition and soul. Whitby was the meeting point, and Dracula became the warning.
The night is never silent here. The sea murmurs its secrets. The abbey hums its hymn to the lost. I am content to linger in their company, for if Whitby gave me Dracula, then perhaps, in return, I have given Whitby a soul that will never die.
It's clearly obvious as to why Bram Stoker himself found Whitby so fascinating, and again it's clearly obvious as to where he drew inspiration for the book Dracula. Whitby Abbey alone, to this day, the abbey itself still stands proud overlooking the harbour of Whitby. its gothic nature. And it just brings so many people to this neck of the woods all year round to look at the fascinating structure, to walk in the footsteps of Bram Stoker, and to uncover the legend that simply is Count Dracula. It's here within the grounds of St Mary's Churchyard you can still find a weathered headstone bearing the name Swales, the very name Bram Stoker would later give to one of his first victims in Dracula. It's believed that during his time in Whitby, Stoker may have wandered among these very graves, drawing inspiration from the names carved into their stone. And perhaps, as he stood here overlooking the dark sea below, the idea of old Mr Swales and his fateful end began to take shape.
There is an additional cause in that poor Mr. Swales was found dead this morning on our seat, his neck being broken. He had evidently, as the doctor said, fallen back in the seat in some sort of fright, for there was a look of fear and horror on his face that the men said made them shudder. Poor dear old man.
Dracula was first published on May 26, 1897 by Archibald Constable and Company of London. The novel was released to modest attention, its chilling tale of superstition, science and the supernatural slowly weaving its way into the public imagination. Now few could have predicted that this dark creation, born from Stoker's meticulous research and imagination, would go on to redefine Gothic horror forever. Stoker's health declined after Dracula's publication, and after enduring a series of debilitating strokes, Bram Stoker passed away on the 20th of April 1912 at number 26 George's Square, London. The true cause of his death remains uncertain. Some believe it was the result of years of exhaustion and overwork, while others suggest the effects of syphilis. The world had lost a great author and storyteller, and were still to realise the monster he'd unleashed. But Whitby remembered.
It is a strange thing to outlive oneself, to see the creature walk while the creator sleeps.
And so Bram Stoker became a ghost, his words surviving him, his fears given wings. Every Halloween, every festival, every costume on these streets is a resurrection of his imagination. But beyond the Gothic glamour, Whitby still holds something raw, something human, a reminder that even in death art endures, and that sometimes the ghosts we summon are the ones that save us.
I am content to have added one ghost to this town of many. But remember this, monsters are not born in Transylvania. They are born within us.